Now, I could have played the music a little bit longer, but like I always say, this is not a music show. You know what this is all about. It just seems like yesterday I made the announcement that I was starting up this podcast, and now I'm here for year number 2. Man, you can't tell me that God isn't the greatest. Welcome back to season 2 of Monday Evening Quarterback. My name is Christian Simpson, and I am the creator, the founder, the NFL college football analyst of a brand called the Daily Blitz, where we specialize in all things football 24/7, 365, and I'm just an overall football junkie. I think that's the best way I could describe myself. We've waited. It was a crazy offseason in the NFL. Week 1 of college is just about in the books. There's one more game tonight. We'll get into that a little bit. But it's finally here. This is almost like Christmas time for anybody that follows football extremely heavily. And I'm here to get you ready for it. Lots to look forward to in week 1 of the NFL. There's a game on Thursday night. And the last time we saw a meaningful football game, the Los Angeles Rams just became the second team in National Football League history to win a Super Bowl in their own home stadium, with, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being the first during the 2020-2021 season. Man, it feels great to be back. I thought that song was absolutely perfect. Welcome Back by Mace. I'm back. Just thought it was the appropriate tune. Week 1 of college football. It was definitely entertaining, and it showed why we just enjoy the game so much. Let's dive right into it. Let's get the ugly out the way first. North Carolina, Appalachian State. North Carolina looks sharp in week 0, but week 1, they got the win, but I don't like the way they got the victory. Let's just put it that way, because you pitched a shutout defensively. You pitch a shutout, and then in the fourth quarter, you give up 40 points. It's one thing to give out 40 throughout the game, but 40 points in a quarter, that's unacceptable. And the former defensive player in me, it just cringes. There's no communication amongst that Tar Heels defense. Guys don't finish tackles. Guys put too much emphasis on one guy, and then it leaves someone else wide open. They're lucky that their offense bailed them out. And that's the thing. Whenever a team struggles defensively, it's additional pressure on the offense, because, in a way, their offense becomes their defense. And they almost have to sustain those long drives and just keep the defense on the sideline to take the pressure off of them. Yes, they did win the game 63-61, but still, giving up 40 points in a quarter, that's just simply unacceptable, plain and simple. Look, I know if that's my playing days, we're running the day after. And coach is just going to keep having us run and having us run until he says stop. You know, some coaches are cruel like that. Just being honest. North Carolina did get the win. They are 2-0, though. I guess, you get the win at the end of the day. But I don't like the way they won that football game. Plain and simple. Something else that caught my eye in week 1, the backyard brawl. I think this is their first time playing the backyard brawl in about 10 or 11 years. And in case you don't know what the backyard brawl is, that is a matchup between the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Pittsburgh Panthers. And I'm kind of mad. I almost wish I had previewed this game. So entertaining. Great way to start up a full weekend of football. Two USC quarterbacks going at it. JT Daniels from the University of West Virginia was Georgia's starting quarterback, but Georgia turned to a kid named Stetson Bennett, and then Keaton Slovis is taking over for Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. And Kenny was actually there with some of his teammates from last year to celebrate winning the ACC championship. They dropped that banner. The first half went exactly as I thought it would. Very hard-hitting, very physical, very low scoring. Then in the second half, the offensive spiral out of control. Coming into the game, I just said I think Pittsburgh is the far more superior offense than West Virginia, and they showed that in the second half. Pittsburgh did win that game. Gutsy performance from Keaton Slovis, and he's going to get more comfortable within this system. Pittsburgh won the game by a score of 38-31. Looking up some of these stats right now. Let's see. Ended up being a shootout. Looking up the stats right now for West Virginia, JT Daniels had a pretty good day at the office. He went 23 of 39, 214 yards, averaged 9.3 yards per pass attempt, 2 touchdown passes, 1 interception. Then on the other side, Keaton Slovis, 16 of 24, 308 yards passing, that is. 1 touchdown pass. He averaged 19.3 yards per pass attempt. 1 touchdown pass, and he was sacked 5 times. That Pittsburgh offensive line definitely has a lot of soul searching to do. And Pat Narduzzi's group, they come away with the victory. How about Rodney Hammond? I had a fun time watching him. He was doing a little bit of everything, and he was their best playmaker on the field that night. Anything you needed him to do, he did it, plain and simple. And that's what you ask of football players. No, there were some other games on Thursday night too. Penn State, Purdue opening up the Big Ten slate, and Penn State did go in to Purdue, which can be a hostile environment, and that's always a tough place to play. And Purdue fell short to Penn State. The thing about Penn State is they stay in games, and then they always seem to lose the lead when it matters most, and you just can't do that. You got to hold on to it. As an associate of mine calls it the Franklin Fourth. We almost saw a little bit of the Franklin Fourth, but Penn State, I think they could be a tough out. You're hearing all about Ohio State. You're hearing about Michigan. You're hearing about Michigan State. Rightfully so, because those are, I think, the 3 best teams in the Big Ten East. And Penn State, I think, is just on the outside looking in of that. Yeah, but those 2 games took place on Thursday. Let's go into what I've been up to this offseason. I previewed every conference in college football. Preview games, did 2 college games, and did 1 NFL game. Have so much more, but I'll get into that a little later. Let's talk about Saturday. It was week 1. That's where everything unfolded. College game day was at the Shoe. Columbus, Ohio for Notre Dame and Ohio State. But one game that caught my eye early in the afternoon was Hawaii and Michigan. Colorado State and Michigan, excuse me. Colorado State and Michigan. Think many of you have heard the news that Jim Harbaugh isn't sticking to a consistent quarterback schedule. No, he played Cade McNamara on week 1, and he said he intends on starting J.J. McCarthy in week 2. I can't say I disagree with it, because I was telling a huge Michigan fan last week that this, to me, is throwing a defense off, because there's more tape on Cade McNamara, right? There's more tape on him, and defenses know what he wants to do, whereas there's not a lot of tape on J.J. McCarthy. So you talk about throwing a defense off and trying to confuse them. You kind of want one up on your opponent. And that's what I think Jim Harbaugh is doing. That's the way I'm looking at it. But the game overall on Saturday for Michigan at the Big House, what a performance. They were absolutely dominant on both sides of the football. Let's look at those stats. Michigan came in 8th ranked team in the country. Michigan dominated this game by a score of 51-7. Cade McNamara goes 9 of 18, 136, averaging 15 yards per pass attempt, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and let's give a lot of credit to the big guys up front. Those 5, the offensive line I'm talking about, they gave up only 1 sack. That's impressive. The thing about Michigan is their bread and butter is running the football. I mean, they did it better than I think any other team in the country last year, and I think they can get back to that again. Hassan Haskins isn't there anymore, but you still have Blake Corum, and now you have Donovan Edwards. He's a speedster. Blake Corum went 13 attempts, 76 yards, and a touchdown. And then Donovan Edwards, 12 carries, 64 yards, and a touchdown. How about the defense? Defense handled their business. I know there's no Aiden Hutchinson. Now he plays with the Detroit Lions, and no David Ajabo is now he plays with the Baltimore Ravens, keeping it in the family from one hardball to another, right? Almost like a sack or a pass rusher by committee type of thing, and that's what we saw on Saturday. Michigan was just dominant in every phase of the game. Offensively, the offensive line did their job. Cade took care of the ball. They ran the ball. The receivers made catches. They were able to finish up the field, find the end zone. Defensively, they got those takeaways. They were able to get off the field on third downs. They executed on special teams, and they were just well coached. They just did everything better from a football standpoint. One thing I will say is Michigan has their first 4 games at home, so get off to a really strong start. After all, they did win the Big Ten last year, won the Big Ten East, got that monkey off their back by beating Ohio State, got to the Big Ten championship, defeated the Iowa Hawkeyes, made the playoffs, but unfortunately they fell short to the eventual national champion, Georgia Bulldogs, and that's just perfect segue. Let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Played the Oregon Ducks, and there were some ties in this game because Dan Lanning, the former offensive coordinator, Dan Lanning, the former defensive coordinator from Georgia last season, behind that stellar defense that led them to a national championship, their first since 1980, left and took the job to become Oregon's new head coach. And he has a familiar face at quarterback, played Georgia several times, and that's Bo Nix I'm talking about. Came into this game 0-3. Now, the one thing I said about Georgia, said it on the Nerd Zone, and said it to a couple of people off the air. The one thing about Georgia is they lost a lot of key pieces from last year's title team. You lost Travion Walker. He was the number 1 overall pick. You lose Big Jordan Davis. You lose Nakobe Dean. You lost James Cook. But here's the thing. This is why they hired Kirby Smart. One, not only to become Alabama East, but to not just break it down, to reload. And Kirby is a hell of a recruiter. That's the thing about Georgia. They're not going to break it down. They're just simply going to reload. That's exactly what they did. Coming into the game, I said the most important matchup was not even taking place on the field. It was Dan Lanning, Oregon's new head coach, and Georgia's former defensive coordinator against Todd Monken, Georgia's offensive coordinator. Both men coach with each other. Both men know what the other likes to do. So it was almost like a chess match. Funny how the most important matchup didn't even partake on the field. What a day for the Georgia Bulldogs. They did not let up. I think they kind of took it personal that they weren't ranked number 1. After all, they did win a national championship, and Georgia just never let their foot off the gas pedal. They dominated this game by a score of 49-3. Can we stop the Stetson Bennett hate, please? I said it in my preview on Friday. Thank you guys for reading it. Can we stop the Stetson Bennett hate? Because anytime this kid is asked to deliver and make a crucial throw when you need him to, he does it. And I mean, he just has such firm grasp and control of this offense now, and it just simply amazes me what he's able to do at this point. He's mobile. I think that's the most impressive part of his game. Yes, he's a smaller quarterback, but he's able to extend plays and make throws on a run. He can get those yards when a play breaks down, and he was close to flawless on Saturday. How about this Georgia defense? I can't say it enough. Give him a little tip of the cap. I can't say it enough. Georgia, their defense, you knew that they were going to be different this year, but they looked to be a little bit quicker this year than they did last year. Can't wait to see what Nolan Carter does, and just so many of these other pieces may not be what they were, but the quality of defense is what I'm looking at. It was just an awful day for the Oregon Ducks, and bad day for Coach Lanning, but they're going to go back and retool. Bo Nix just didn't have it. He falls to 0-4 all time against the University of Georgia. Georgia rolls. Can't wait to see what they do the remainder of the season. A couple other coaches made their debuts as well. I know Brett Venables, he made his debut on Saturday for the University of Oklahoma. I think they're going to be a completely different team this year. They played UTEP and dominated UTEP. I mean, look, yeah, the defense looked good, but that's UTEP. I can't wait to see them do this against a Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas, and a Red River rivalry, just to name a few. So I can't wait to see them play this style of defense in their conference. And I'm just so happy that Brent finally got a job. I thought he was one of the one or two best defensive minds, 2 or 3, I should say, best defensive minds in the country for years at Clemson. Now he finally has his shot. Lincoln Riley made his debut on Saturday against Rice University, but his former quarterback from Oklahoma, Caleb Williams, with him. USC dominates Rice by a score of 66-14. Rice didn't get off the team bus. I see Caleb Williams, what a day at the office. 19-22, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 68 yards rushing as well. Only sacked once. Can't wait to see what USC does. But I think the game of the day, on paper, number 5 ranked Notre Dame against number 2 ranked Ohio State. I know a lot of people have Ohio State kind of going on a run this year, playing with that chip on their shoulder after losing to Michigan, not making the playoffs. Because let's look at it like this. Ohio State has been the standard in the Big Ten. You can pencil them in to win a division. You can pencil them in to win the Big Ten East. Like I said, so winning the division, winning the Big Ten winning the Big Ten Conference Championship, and being one of those 4 playoff teams. And I think they could be a playoff team this year. It's going to be close because just see what Michigan does. So that game at the end of the year, which I'm sure I will be previewing, will be so much fun to watch. This time it's going to be at the Shoe. It was at the Big House last year, and as I said, Michigan did smack Ohio State around. But looking at this game, it was a debut of Marcus Freeman, the new head coach for Notre Dame. As you guys know, last year, Brian Kelly ended up leaving Notre Dame for Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as he is now the head coach of the LSU Tigers. Marcus Freeman used to actually play for Ohio State, so coming to the Shoe to coach your first game, that had to be pretty special for him. Different looking Notre Dame team. There's no Jack Cohn. Tyler Buckner, starting quarterback now for Notre Dame, and he brings to the table what Jack couldn't. And he's a mobile quarterback. No Kyron Williams, but Notre Dame's offense still has Michael Mayer. I still think he's the premier tight end in college football. If you haven't seen tape on this kid, go watch him. And the thing about tight ends now is they're being used in so many different ways. It's almost like they're wide receivers stuck in a bigger player's body. Ohio State, when I look at Ohio State, I look at their big 3 offensively, and they have a formidable trio. That's C.J. Stroud. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Showed a little bit of mobility on Saturday because everybody thought he was just a pocket passer. Kind of surprised me a little bit. Travion Henderson, who I think is key to this entire season for the Ohio State Buckeyes, because when you look back at all the years when Ohio State's won a championship, example, their last when they beat Oregon in the first inaugural college football playoff national championship, Look at what they were able to do with Ezekiel Elliott. They were able to run the football. And even 20 years ago, when they won their last championship, and members of that 20-year anniversary team were in the building on Saturday night, as well as many other big names. Jerome Bettis, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, Notre Dame alum and graduate. Ezekiel Elliott, Ohio State alum. Well, I don't know about alum, but he played for Ohio State. Of course, the King was there. LeBron James with his son, Bronny. Jason Tatum was there. Justin Fields, former Ohio State quarterback, was there. Just a lot of people were in the building for that one. Just had to get that out the way. But when I look at Ohio State, TreVeyon Henderson's going to have to be key. They have to run the football. And it was a test for them on Saturday. Now, let's give credit to Al Golden, Notre Dame's new defensive coordinator. And former head coach of the Miami Hurricanes. Notre Dame played it simple. They kept those safeties high, played man coverage underneath, and they forced Ohio State to go underneath using crossing patterns and crossing routes. And you look at Notre Dame, man, you look at Ohio State and what they want to do. They always want to take shots down the field. It was tough for them to move the ball down the field without Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I think is the premier wide receiver in the country. When you look at that trio of receivers that they had, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, then you had Jackson in the mix as well. Jackson was a guy that did more than your typical slot receiver, okay? He was a guy that could take the top off the zone coverage, a guy that can go down the field, stretch the field vertically. He could be that deep threat. Because when you think of slot receivers, what's the one thing that comes to mind? They want to work short. They want to go intermediate. Intermediate is the deepest they're going to go. That's not Jackson. Jackson is a fluid route runner. He can block in the running game, and he just reminds me a lot of Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ohio State had to adjust on the fly, so they had to kind of ugly that game out. Yeah, CJ was able to complete a couple of passes here and there, but they ran the football. I'm looking at the stats right here. As Ohio State did win this game by a score of 21-7. Defense pitched a shutout in the second half. Looking at the stats, C.J. Stroud, 24-34, 223 yards passing, 2 touchdown passes, was only sacked 1 time. And TreVeyon Henderson ran 15 times, 91 yards, and averaged 6.1 yards per attempt. On the other side for Notre Dame, Tyler Buckner didn't have a bad game. 10-18, 177 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Was sacked 3 times, so that offensive line, which really struggled, they're going to have to get better. They're going to have to tighten it up a little bit. Chris Tyree, the running back from the university, the running back for Notre Dame, replacing Kyron Williams, which is 2 seasons of rushing for 1,000 yards. Didn't have a great day, but didn't have a bad day either. Rushed, this is actually below average. 6 carries, 28 yards. That means Ohio State got to stopping the run. Let's see if they can do this consistently. Low-scoring, ugly game, but I'll take it. That's actually the type of football that I like. Other scores that took place, Alabama, they won their scrimmage against Utah State by a score of 55-0. Baylor beat Albany by a score of 69-10. But how about Utah and Florida? 2 schools that Urban Meyer used to coach. Utah, to some, they could be a playoff team. I think they have one of the best tandems in the country, quarterback Cameron Rising and running back Tavion Thomas. They're a pretty good 1-2 punch. And I thought this was a trap game for Utah. Utah came in ranked 7th. I like this Utah team because they're well coached. They can run it. They can pass it. They play defense. I look at Florida and new head coach for them. Billy Napier made his debut for the Gators. And doesn't matter who you are, the Swamp is just always such a tough place to go get a win. Now, if this game were in Utah, I wholeheartedly would have picked the Utah Utes to win this game, but I picked Florida. And how about Anthony Richardson? What a game he had. He was just absolutely buzzing. Had Twitter talking all about him. Let's look at the numbers for this game. Cameron Rising went 22 with 32, 216 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And Tavion Thomas, who I just talked about, 23 carries, 115 yards rushing, 5 yards per attempt, and a touchdown. On the other side, Anthony Richardson, 17 to 24, $168, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And then Anthony Richardson also led his team in rushing. And you guys know how I feel about your quarterback being your leading rusher. So the other running backs have to step up. Utah lost this game by a score of 29-26. And then yesterday, Florida State, LSU. Both these teams are kind of headed in different directions. I look at Florida State. It's been a struggle for them the last couple of years. Because obviously I've not been that team that won a national championship in 2013. Jimbo left to take the job in College Station, Texas, with Texas A&M. Had Willie Taggart, he got fired. Mike Norvell is here, and this might be the most talented roster that Mike Norvell has had. I look at LSU. Brian Kelly is under a lot more pressure now than I think he was ever at Notre Dame, because he's coaching in the SEC, and if you don't win in the SEC, you're just simply not going to make it. I look at LSU and just where they were a couple of years ago. I look at that, and I look at just all the talent they have, from Burrow to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Thaddeus Moss, impact players on the defensive side, Derek Stingley, Glenn Logan, and guys like that. And that team is now a shell of itself. And remember, Coach Orgeron is now gone from there. He just isn't coaching at this moment. I think he's going to get another job sometime soon. But watching a majority of that game, Florida State came out with an intense amount of energy. But later in the game, you saw that their inexperience really showed, and it's unacceptable to let a team march 99 yards down the field. Plain and simple. What saved them was that kid blocking the kick. Florida State was able to hold on by a score of 24-23. That's week 1 in the books. Have a game tonight. Clemson, Georgia Tech. It's year 2 for DJ Uiagalelei. Want to see what Dabo and crew have. I think they're going to be the best defense in the ACC and one of the best in the country. Once again, they want to get back to that winning taste. And I think they can do it. Only time will tell. We'll see what they do tonight. That game's in Atlanta. It's part 2 of the Chick-fil-A kickoff. But while I'm here, how about we give out a game ball? Like always, it can go to quite a few players, right? But I'm going to give it to Stetson Bennett. He was just in such great control of this football game, because didn't turn the ball over, took great care of the ball. He went 25 of 31, 368 yards passing, and 2 touchdown passes, and even made that dangerous throw over and across his body and found Lade McConkey in the end zone for the score. That's when I knew the game was over. Stetson Bennett getting the game ball, first of many this year for many different players, both in college and the NFL. And while we're here, why don't we go to the phone lines? I have a caller. The lines have been buzzing and ringing for the last 15 to 20 minutes, and of course I had to answer every call. So caller, you're on with the analyst on Monday Evening Quarterback. How can I help you today?
Hey, what's up, man? It's Mark. How's it going?
Wait a minute. Is this Mark DK that I contributed for on SportsTownChicago.com on the Sunday Nooner? Is that the Mark that's on the line right now?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Out of the darkness to talk football with my guy.
There we go, man. I appreciate that. So what's on your mind?
Well, as you know, I bleed gold and blue. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on my Irish this season. New coach, new QB, new attitude, but is it going to be the same results against big-time opponents?
That's to be determined. One, let me tell you, I thought they were going to narrow the job down to 3 candidates after Brian Kelly left. I was thinking it was going to be Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. I was thinking it was going to be, this aged horribly, I was thinking it was going to be Urban Meyer. Or I thought they were going to stay in-house and they were going to go Marcus Freeman. And I'm so happy that he got the job because he is what you call a true player's coach. He knows the ins and outs and the difficulties that it is of being a player at times. And, when I think of them hiring Marcus, I think of that video. I know you remember when some of the coaches were talking and then they introduced Marcus. He comes in. Just look at how the players gravitated to him. That's a guy I would want to play for. That's a guy I would leave everything on the field for. It's not going to be easy the first couple of years, maybe even this year. They have to get established. But then again, nobody knows what type of system he's going to run or he's going to implement. So that's one thing that they could use to their advantage. There's no Kyron Williams. So who are they going to build this offense around?
Well, Mike, they're going to get tested right away because, they start the season at Ohio State on September 3rd.
Right.
And this season they don't have a lot of big games to make names for themselves. You have, Ohio State in September. You've got Clemson in November. And then depending on what USC does this year, they wrap up their season, out in Southern California. But, like you said, I agree 100%. These players love to play for Marcus Freeman. And you've got the loss of Jack Cohen, and even before that, Ian Book, 2 seasons ago. It's going to be Tyler Buckner time or Drew Pine. You've got some young quarterback play. I think they're going to be helped because they do have 4 guys on the offensive line coming back as starters with Jarrett Patterson right there at center.
Right.
You mentioned Kyron Williams. He's, that's 1,000 yards each of the past 2 seasons.
Right.
We'll have to see what Logan Diggs can do. He filled in well in spots, but had a bit of doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield nearly as well as Kyron did, and had a little bit of trouble holding on to the football. And then, of course, on the defensive side, obviously Kyle Hamilton's a guy that's going to be hard to replace. But they've got the J.D. Bertrand, who led the team in tackles last year, coming back. You've got Isaiah Foskey coming back as an edge rusher. Mm-hmm. And like you said, these guys love to play for Marcus Freeman, but Coach Kelly had established a winning tradition there, and do you think they made the right call staying in-house with Marcus Freeman, or should they have went and got a bigger name coach for a supposedly big-name program? I'll admit, I don't think Notre Dame is what they once were. Now it's more of the SEC, the Alabamas, the Georgias, but for many alumni, Notre Dame is still one of the biggest football programs in the country. Do they deserve a big-name coach?
I mean, you can think like that, but I think they made the right choice by staying in-house because the players are already comfortable with him. New guy comes in, you got to learn the ins and outs of his system, so I'm happy with the decision that they made by giving Marcus a chance. And you mentioned Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, that's a huge piece that they're going to be without this year. And you know who he reminds me of, Mark? I was thinking about it. He's the closest thing I've seen to Sean Taylor. Just the intensity he plays with, how he's always around the ball. I've seen people say Ed Reed, but come on, man, I think Ed may be the greatest safety I've seen play. But I think Sean Taylor is an accurate comparison for Kyle Hamilton, and that's going to be tough to replace a 6'4" safety who can play on the hash, who can play left and right, move sideline to sideline, just all the ground he covers. But I think Notre Dame's going to be okay. They might surprise some people. Now, you mentioned the quarterbacks. I think Drew Pine gives them a better chance to win because he's able to do things that some of the other quarterbacks before him weren't able to do. He's able to move the pocket. I think he's more of a threat with his feet than he is with his arm in the pocket.
Yeah, had a great blue and gold game. And then While we're talking offense, we do have some question marks at wide receiver and at running back, but where we do not have a question is at tight end as Michael Mayer comes back.
Best tight end in the country. Best tight end in the country. You notice something about tight ends now. They're a little bit more fluid in their movement. You can use them wide. You can line them up on the perimeter. You can line them up in the backfield. You can use them tight as they normally are. And he's just a threat with the ball in his hands. And he's a threat without the ball in his hands as well because he commands so much attention.
And he follows in a tradition of great Notre Dame tight ends going back to Tyler Eifert.
Right.
Cole Kmet had a great, career at Notre Dame.
Right.
But Michael Mayer, if history continues to, track the way it is, yes, he will be the best tight end in Notre Dame history. And if he has the season like people think he's going to have, he probably will be a top 5, top 10 pick in the 2023 draft.
I can see it. I can definitely see it. Now, Mark, you got anything else for me, football-wise?
Yeah.
Let me hear
I
it.
have to ask, as we are here in the second day of June, I have to ask my old friend, my old analyst, and one of my favorite parts of the Blitz, before we get into my last question.
Okay.
My favorite part of the Blitz.
Yeah. What is your favorite thing? What is your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
Taking modern and classic hip-hop and mixing it with sports stories. Such a cool idea. That and we share a lot of the same musical interests, so when I hear the beat come on, not only do I want to read the article, I just want to listen to the music and then read the article too. So even if I don't agree with the article, I know the music's going to be on point.
And here's what's crazy about that, man. The first one I ever did came in 2018. It was the Thursday night kickoff between the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm like, I got to come out with a bang. And the funny thing is, I tell my mom this all the time. Hi, Mom. I tell my mom this all the time. These just come to me when I least expect it. And this one, I was really thinking, okay, they're in Philly. So I was watching an episode of The Fresh Prince, and everybody knows the theme song, in West Philadelphia, born and raised. I changed this one in South Philadelphia, banner raised, because the Eagles were coming off their Super Bowl title over the Patriots. They play in South Philly, and they were raising the banner. So things like that, they just come to me when I least expect it. And, man, I'm just so glad that it's become a hit, and so many people like it, man. So just hearing that from you, of all people, really means a lot.
And that leads me into my final question for you.
Okay.
You're talking about raising banners. Who's atop of the mountain when we hit the end of the 22-23 NFL season? Who raises that banner next year?
Oh, wow. You're putting me on the spot like that, huh? I'm going to say... Phone lines is one of my favorite things to do, and now I get to do it for a full season. Caller, you're on with the analyst on Monday Evening Quarterback. How can I help you?
How you doing? It's continues. It's your boy, calling in for my brother to support. Get some thoughts on football for me.
I appreciate that, man. So what's on your mind?
Man, there was so much going on in the offseason.
Right.
I believe, actually, this is probably one of the best off seasons that we had in the last couple of seasons.
Right. I agree.
The one that stood out the most to me was the Green Bay situation.
Okay.
It stood out to me because it's funny. Because Aaron Rodgers was like, I want to get traded during the last 2 seasons. And then once off season comes, he takes a huge extension, knowing Devontae Adams wanted an extension as well, or was going to leave, depending on whatever he did. And he decided to take an extension. Instead, knowing they wouldn't have money for both of them, and then he comes out and says, I wanted Devontae to stay. If you wanted him to stay, why did you take so much for the extension? Why didn't you tell him, we can split it? But you were looking for a pay cut. You making it seem to the people that's on the outside looking in that you're there for a long run and you want to win a Super Bowl. But in actuality, we all know it's just about money. You just just making it look good, just making it look like a show.
Right. I mean,
that stood out to me.
Look, I'll tell you this, man. Aaron Rodgers is like that one girl that you have to keep telling she's pretty. Because that's what's gonna boost his confidence. You know what I'm saying? Charles Barkley said that, so I'm giving Chuck some credit for that. But the way I look at it, you summed it up pretty well, and I just kind of want to add my thoughts to it as well, man. Aaron Rodgers is selfish because let's paint the picture here, okay? Let's look at Tom Brady. What's Tom done his entire career? And this dates back to what he did with New England. Takes money, takes less money, takes pay cuts, says, hey, look, give me less, and what you were going to give me, let's put that toward the team. Aaron Rodgers just isn't that type of guy, plain and simple. So he knew what was going on, but look, they were going to stick with Aaron at the end of the day. Now, I'll tell you this. The day when Devontae got traded, I was actually out, and when I got the notification that he was traded, I almost dropped my phone. I almost dropped my phone. I was in shock. But I agree, man. It was a wild off-season. Russell, last name Wilson, getting traded to the Denver Broncos. Tom Brady unretiring. Deshaun Watson. What else caught your eye this off-season?
This offseason, I want to say, so as a Chiefs fan, I already knew two things going into the season. Either we were going to not have money going into the 2023 because we were either going to extend him, Tyreek, or I already knew we were going to trade him. Because I already knew this was looking for an extension. I was just asking, my thing is, why couldn't we sign someone else outside of Juju Smith-Schuster? We had Jarvis Landry as a free agent as well. It was Allen Robinson. There was multiple other people we could have signed as a number one. But I don't feel like, hopefully Juju proves me wrong, and he does better than, I'll literally just call Juju Corvette off the strength of what happened to him against the Browns. No, it wasn't the Browns. It was the Bengals. Off that, when they sold the bag. But that threw me off. And then Von Miller actually not wanting to re-sign with the Rams. But I see what he was doing. Because actually, Buffalo does have a better chance at going back to the Super Bowl. All they needed was a running back. And I feel like they got that with James Cook. I feel like they got that with him. I feel like he has potential to be a star. Due to, because obviously when he went to Georgia, he was dominant there. But the draft was amazing. I'm actually proud. Two things I'm proud of that actually did well. The Eagles and the Lions, they did amazing jobs with the draft. They did amazing.
Yeah, they definitely did. But, man, I want to elaborate what you said about the Kansas City Chiefs. They could have gone after Allen Robinson. I thought that would have been great. Or I thought they were going to go after Mike Williams because I know he was a free agent before he signed with the he re-signed with the Los Angeles Chargers. I had to correct myself right then and there. Here's the thing about Kansas City. Call me crazy, but I think they can still win that division this year because they have the best coach in the division and they have the best player in the division. And Patrick Mahomes, he's a game changer. And you know what you're going to get from him, man. There's a little bit of mystery added to this offense now because, Travis Kelce's going to be his top target. But what about who's going to emerge as that number one wide receiver in Tyreek Hill's absence? And that's where I think they have a little bit of an advantage over every other team in the division. And as far as the draft was amazing. The Eagles were actually one of my 3 winners of the draft. The Lions had a good draft. A lot of good teams filling those draft needs. Anything else you got for me, man?
This rookie draft class, man, is one thing I hate about the draft is the way they're going Trayvon Walker. He's getting blamed for going number one when it should have been Aiden Hutchinson, but that's not his fault.
Right.
Like he's getting a lot of they're blaming him because the Jags saw potential in him. But if you look at the Jags scheme, Detroit should be thankful, and I'm pretty sure they are. That line, Aiden Hutchinson, I believe he wouldn't have been able to just been on the line. I believe they're going to move Trayvon Walker around. I believe they're going to have him edge rusher or defending the zone. I believe Aiden Hutchinson is perennially the best edge rusher in the draft. So predominantly just going to be rushing. So that was great. But I feel like the sleeper is going to be Sky Moore too. Knowing what Kansas City turned Tyreek into, man, his first year when he got drafted, he was a punt returner, kick returner, and he was the third receiver. I feel like Sky Moore is going to replace that. I know he doesn't have the speed Tyreek has, but he's the dark horse. I feel like he's going to emerge.
I agree. I could
about the trade. No, you go ahead. Forget about the trade. I'm sorry about that.
Nah, man. I like what you said about Sky because he's exactly what I think the Chiefs have needed the last couple of years, that big possession receiver, because you look at everything that Kansas City's had the last couple of years, and what's it been? Speedsters, guys that can go underneath. You need a guy that can consistently take the top off a zone, and I think Sky can do that. I'm sure he and Mahomes are already in the lab practicing and tuning things out. I can't wait to see what this duo does, because I think he's going to emerge as that early option behind Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Now,
also,
let me hear it.
The Saints. A
Uh-huh.
lot of people disrespecting J-Bo. I'm tired of it. A lot of people disrespecting him one. Like, he was not dominating before he tore his ACL. The man deserves his respect. He had the Saints go into Green Bay and blow them out. As childish as he is, he contributed to that. As you can see, towards the end of the season, they needed a quarterback. Taysom Hill is not the guy that they thought he was going to be.
I agree.
Which is why they did not win. Also, that defense, oh man, that defense is already top 5 defense. I believe it may be the top defense in the NFL now. With the addition of Tyrann Mathieu, by himself, as long as Daniel Sorensen don't get on the field, I'm sorry, I hate that man. Always going to despise him. Simply, always, never going to change. He is the secondary, not even secondary. He is the safety version of Eli Apple.
Look. As far as the Saints go, let's not act like Jameis wasn't 5-2 before he tore his ACL last year. They're a playoff team. If he stays healthy, they're a playoff team. Not sure what they would do when they got to the playoffs, but they're a playoff team, and that defense is absolutely amazing. They're going to take the next step. But check this out, man. One thing I do when I end every phone call is I always ask people what their favorite thing is about the Daily Blitz. So now I present that question to you. What's your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
Man, it's just, I love reading the Daily Blitz. As soon as something comes out, like a big trade or free signing or firing, you own it. And it gives us, talking about it in our groups, it gives me a chance to let the people that's not in our groups get a reading or understanding of what we talk about in our sports group. Because me, with our sports group, I look forward to posting it. Although I don't make posts anymore, I love commenting on a lot of things now regarding football and all that. But the Daily Blitz is like when you read it, you sum up everything perfect. You don't overrun anything. Even in the smallest details, you make sure you include that. It's just something that other sports pages or outlets don't do, that you do. You cover everything regarding that, what came up to that, or what caused that situation. And I love that.
I really appreciate those words, man. It's words and testimonials like that really motivate me to do a better job. Man, I can't wait to have you back on Monday Evening Quarterback. Another thing I always like to say is the doors at MEQ are always open. You let me know when you want to come on. We'll make it happen. All right?
Thank you, brother.
My man.
And you stay safe.
Man, those phone calls really are so special. I have one more to play before we end the show, but I think that's perfect segue to get into what I'm talking about now, NFL wise. Week 1 is here, previewing 3 NFL games. You know what? I'm just gonna get that out the way right now. What I'm previewing. I already previewed the Broncos and Seahawks. Russell Wilson making his Denver Broncos debut on Monday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks. He will be making his return to Seattle next Monday night. Cannot wait to talk a little bit about that next week, God willing, on Monday evening quarterback. Um, I'm previewing Baylor and BYU, two programs who are kind of trending up, and it's a very interesting quarterback matchup right now with Baylor and Blake Shapen taking over for Jerry Bohannon. Jerry Bohannon's now playing at the University of South Florida, and then for BYU, Baylor BYU for BYU, Jarrett Hall. That's a really interesting quarterback matchup. That one's taking place under the lights on Saturday night on ESPN. After that, have the Raiders and the Chargers. The AFC West was the talk of the offseason. Just so many moves, as you heard on that phone call, took place. Tyreek Hill getting traded. The Raiders acquiring Devontae Adams. The Chargers, who I thought won the offseason, acquiring Khalil Mack and signing J.C. Jackson, giving Derwin James a contract extension. Don't forget, you still have Joey Bosa. And they signed Sebastian Joseph Day, a guy who spent time under Brandon Staley, the current head coach of the Chargers, when Brandon was the defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams. The AFC West is going to be fun. And I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, Russell Wilson, or as I like to say, Russell, last name Wilson, making his debut with Denver. Then Thursday night is when it all begins. Buffalo Bills, Los Angeles Rams. And this is actually my Super Bowl prediction. I think we're going to see these two teams once again in February in Arizona. I love everything about this matchup. You have two top 10 quarterbacks in Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford. Two of the best wide receivers are featured in this game, and Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs. Two top cornerbacks, Jalen Ramsey, Tre'Davious White, two of the best head coaches in this league. And Von Miller is coming back. Last year, he played with the Rams, provided them that leadership. Want to see what he does with this young Buffalo defense. I mean, Von is an elder statesman now in the league and still doing it at a high level. I still think he's one of the best in the league. And then the next day, previewing on site, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dallas Cowboys. February 1st, Tom Brady announces that he is done with football and he is retiring. And then 45 days later, in March, he announces that he's unretiring. No Bruce Arians. He is now in a front row position with the Buccaneers. Todd Bowles is now the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These two met last year in week 1, and it was one of the best games that I saw all of last season. I think the key in that game is going to be, can Dallas get home and put pressure on Tom Brady? Because you just can't sit back in coverage and let him nickel you and dime you apart. He's the greatest to do it for a reason. Tom will begin his 23rd year in the NFL. That's absolutely remarkable. And then my Saturday spotlight game is the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Texas Longhorns. This is these two teams' first time playing since the national championship back during the 2009-2010 season. So it's definitely gonna be a great week 1 in the NFL. Week 2 of college football to follow. I know one thing I wanted to do before I went back to another phone call. I wanted to answer a couple of questions, and I do have a few, actually. I'm looking for them on my cellular device as we speak. This one comes from Christian Kamsev. Christian asks, I like your name, by the way. For the Bears, what do I think? Obviously not Super Bowl worthy, but playoffs maybe. No, I don't. You look at the NFC, they're not better than Green Bay. They're not even better than Minnesota. Okay, so those are two teams right there that I put over them. They're not better than the Saints. They're not better than the Buccaneers. Two more teams. They're not better than Dallas. They're not better than Philadelphia. They're not better than San Francisco. They're not better than the Los Angeles Rams, of course. So who out of every team I just listed are you going to subtract them with? The Bears are in a rebuild. I think they got the right coach in Matt Eberflus, and he's tough. And the Bears just seem to really respond well to that. And I can always appreciate a team responding to a new head coach. They needed this because they did not have any type of toughness under Matt Nagy. The Bears will be, I'll say the Bears, they can, say they win maybe 4 games. That's what I'll say. Question number 2. This one comes from Kamal Banks. Kamal asked me, who's my pick to win MVP? I'm going to say Josh Allen. Josh has really been climbing that ladder in Orchard Park for the Buffalo Bills. I think he would have won MVP in 2020 if a certain somebody named, I don't know, Aaron didn't do what he was doing. Yeah, but I'm going to say Josh Allen. I think Buffalo, I think they're going to be the best team in the AFC this year, and he's going to have a lot to do with that. So that's my pick for MVP. And this next question comes from Donald White. What's your surprise team from each conference? For the NFC, I'm going to say the New Orleans Saints. Thought last year, but you know what? I think people are expecting the Saints to be good. I'll say the Minnesota Vikings. New head coach, Kevin O'Connell. They have a younger head coach. He's an offensive-minded guy. And I don't know if you guys have heard the comments that Justin Jefferson made. No wonder why Cooper Kupp was always so open in Los Angeles. Kevin was the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, and he's implementing some things that he did in L.A. with his now Minnesota Vikings. You know, I think Minnesota's going to be a tough out this year. We'll see them week 1 when they play the Minnesota Vikings. And in the AFC, that's a good question. I'll say the Colts. Say the Indianapolis Colts. Originally, I have the Colts winning the AFC South, starting the 6th quarterback in as many seasons. Matt Ryan was traded to the Indianapolis Colts from the Atlanta Falcons, and he comes into a situation where he has a great offensive line. He has a top 2 running back in Jonathan Taylor that he can lean on. Nice weapons on the perimeter, and a defense that can get him the ball back. So those are the 2 that I would say are the teams to watch for. And before we end the show, why don't we go back to the phone lines?
On the line right now. Caller, you're on with the analyst on Monday Evening Quarterback. How can I help you?
Well, man, your name sounds so familiar. I feel like I might have played ball with you before, or I might have had to make you do some up downs. Man, Chris, what's going on, man?
Dom Bockenselli. Man, now, okay. So before we get into our little discussion, let me just give you guys a brief history lesson. I've played against Dom, and I've played with Dom. And Dom is one of the 3 best teammates that I've ever had. So I'm in the business of giving flowers while people can smell them still. And those are my flowers to you, brother.
Man, I appreciate it more than you know.
Man, you know, look, we got to do it while we're here. We're only here for a good time, not a long time. But all right, now that I did that, what's on your mind football-wise?
All right, man. So, like I told you earlier, I really didn't get to watch the game, so I hit some highlights. I watched the first half. That's all that matters. It's preseason.
Okay.
I like what I'm seeing out of there.
Okay.
I like that they're against. I like that Fields got hit. They threw that penalty, and they got scrappy. You know, for me, man, I play with heart. That's where my game all comes from.
Right.
And they got a little bit of it. I think Justin's gonna send them. I think they're gonna get sent over what many people's expectations are.
I think so.
In the pocket.
Uh-huh.
He had some time in the pocket.
Right.
I mean, and Cleveland's line, I mean, but if anybody practicing with Myles Garrett is going to get better. So they're not, I don't think they're going to have a mediocre line. You know what I mean?
Right.
You play with better people, you get better. That's how it always is.
Exactly. I think with Justin Fields, hopefully, I know Luke Getsy comes in highly recommended from Green Bay, so Eberflus is letting Luke run the offense. Hopefully, Luke will let Justin Fields play his game, because that's the one thing Matt Nagy did not do with Justin Fields last year. You try turning Justin into a pocket guy. When you think of Justin Fields, what's the first thing that comes to mind? He's an uber athletic guy. He likes to move the pocket. He likes to make throws on the run. Like, his feet are his best asset. Use his best asset, which is his mobility.
And if you really watch, you watch technique from last year to this year, like, just playing around with the kids, I just practiced a 3-step drop, and I played DN my whole life. But he's so mechanically, like, superior to what he was last year.
Right.
And I didn't see too many breakdowns. Like I said, I did only watch the first half when he was in, because even though I seen Kirk Simeon, and he could start somewhere. He could go to Seattle and start.
Yeah. I think anybody could go to Seattle and start if they wanted to.
And well, the thing about you said about the play calling, right? So
right.
I seen they ran like a J package, right?
Right.
And they had Herbert in the backfield, and they had their fullback playing wingback, and that was strong side.
Right.
And he came across, Herbert went up, filled, and he came along the backside. Nobody's looking at some random fullback on a pass-heavy Justin Fields team coming across the line and then catching a pass and hitting a first down.
Right.
I've seen two different sets. They had a fullback in there, and I like powerhouse football. I like West Coast. I love throwing, catching, but I like that powerhouse stuff too. And I think Luke got a good balance going over there.
Look, I'll tell you this, man. I'm with you when I say I like power football too, because look, the bigger and the more physical you are, the better of a chance you have to win the football game, and you can just physically dominate and run the football downhill, if you get what I mean.
Dude, Khalil Herbert he busted one. Monty busted one for 20 some odd yards. He got him in the red zone from the 40. It was like, okay, I know our line has been getting a lot of criticism, but how do we always play? Hey, forget what everybody else says. We were the underdogs our whole lives too, man. And look at what we did.
Right.
We ain't lost a football game ever.
Right, exactly. Now, what else is on your mind football-wise, Dom?
Well, so question now: what's going on with Watson? What's he doing? Is he suspended? Because I've seen different articles.
Yeah, he's First, when it came out, they suspended him for 6 games, which I thought was a little bit of a slap on the wrist. Kind of reminded me of Ben Roethlisberger back in 2010.
Man, we protect our women.
Exactly. But I guess the NFL appealed it, and they added more games. I know he's suspended for 11 games. I feel he should be suspended personally for the entire year, because I'll be the first to tell you, when all this news came out, it's ironic. The news broke when he was trying to get himself out of Houston, which I didn't blame him for, but I'm like, oh, okay, this comes out as soon as he wants to get traded. He requests that trade, then he doesn't play at all last year. He gets traded to Cleveland this year, and now, Cleveland invested in him heavily and gave up a lot of their future to make sure they had a franchise quarterback, and now he's going to miss the first 11 games.
Is that what it's in at, is 11?
Yeah, it's 11 games right now. Me, personally, I think it needs to be the full season, because the NFL has an image. The NFL has an image issue right now. And they have, unfortunately, ever since Michael Vick, because it just seems like every year something's going on. Sean Payton, bounty scandal. Yeah, he wasn't involved with that, but he knew about it. And knowing about it and not putting a stop to it is just as bad as partaking.
I think people are targeted. And I'm not saying I'm not defending this man whatsoever, but
Right.
man, NFL is a greasy business, dog.
It is. Oh, definitely. Definitely,
You know what I'm
but...
saying? So who knows all the facts? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Houston trying to shut him out the door, so Houston knew.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't stand for none of that. So I don't. And he ain't gonna get good reception in Ohio. I'll tell you that, because they're like Chicago. They don't play.
Nah, definitely. I agree with that. Anything else on your mind, football-wise, man?
I'm waiting for your question, man. I got a whole list.
Okay, so I know we were talking before you came on. Who would you say is the best defensive player you've ever seen?
Lawrence Taylor, tenfold. By 10, anybody else that says otherwise doesn't know a monster when they see one. And that's you have to have that mentality. And even, I mean, man, I've had struggles in my life. If he had struggles in his life,
Right.
He came out, he's got that, and he's ferocious. But my favorite thing about him isn't what he did. I love what he did on the field. But what he does for people now who've been in that position,
Right.
That to me is what greatness is.
Oh, absolutely.
The game is just on. That's only a few years of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
A lot of people go the wrong way, and LT just, man, on and off the field, he really impressed me. Like, you can't even watch any of his tapes and not just have your jaw drop and think, man, this guy's hard as it is.
Yeah, because he was quick, he was athletic. You know, I remember seeing tapes of him running after Randall Cunningham, and Randall back in his prime with the Eagles, he was a different beast. You know, okay, so that's a good one. You know, the best I've seen, actually, you know, yeah, I can't go wrong with Lawrence, but another one of the best that I've seen, I think he's the greatest middle linebacker of all time. I think you know where I'm going with this. Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis.
Okay, I got on my list. I have Ray second, with next to Ed Reed, because both of them men are part of my spiritual guidance.
Yeah.
Football helps me connect with God, brother. I'm telling you.
Look, man. I'll tell you.
Ray story, man.
Right. Look, I'll tell you this. Ray was the emotional leader of the Ravens all those years. Ed Reed was their heart and soul. Like, I remember Ed Reed outsmarting Peyton Manning. I'm going to send you that tape on that because, yup.
Are you talking about the one that and that's just one of them that they discussed on the ESPN one, right?
Right. Yup. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you got Bill Belichick saying, I've never seen somebody, and it was against Manning, you said, right?
Yeah, it was against Peyton. Yup, it was against Peyton in 2009. Colts and the Ravens.
And the way he turned his hips just to fool Peyton Manning,
yeah,
unfoolable,
yeah,
just to rub it into Bill Belichick's face in a respectful way, man.
Yup.
I seen Ed today. He was in hey, Ed is the way he looks now, man. That's who I kick it with. You know what I mean?
Look, man.
Like, he's so humble. He's got. And so is Ray.
Right, definitely. Now, Dom, I end every phone call by asking people what their favorite thing is about the Daily Blitz. Now, I present that question to you. What's your favorite thing about the Daily Blitz?
My man, Chris. Period, point blank. Does not matter. He's ride or die since. I remember lining up against him. This man is my man. And I have his back until the day comes. And I mean that, Chris, and you know I mean it.
Man, I know you mean that.
They don't mean, but you know I mean it.
Yup. Look, I know you mean it, and the same goes for you, Dom, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on Monday Evening Quarterback, and I always like to say the doors of MEQ are always open, so whenever you want to come back on, you let me know, and we'll set it up, okay?
Man, I enjoy talking to you so much. I'm so grateful for the opportunity just to hear your voice, man.
My man, I appreciate it, man.
Man, that one really meant a lot to me because, look, all the phone callers that I've had in less than a year that I've done this, it really meant a lot. But to have one of my former teammates come on, man, he's a great guy. One of the best people I've ever met. Still friends with him. To this day, remember when I first met him, and like he said, I lined up against him in the trenches. I lined up with him in the trenches. And if I had to go do it back all over again with him, I would. With that being said, I'm going to end today's show. Show 1 is about to be in the books. How can you keep up with me? Log on to the website, which is thedailyblitz.blog. Become a subscriber, enter your email address, and anything that goes on the website, you will get to your inbox. Log on to the Facebook fan page. Yes, I am back on Facebook after having some difficulties with the social media app. That's all I'm going to get into. Go type in the search box the Daily Blitz. Hit the like. Follow us on Twitter at DailyBlitz_61. Follow us on Instagram at the Daily Blitz _61. Keep up with me through the airwaves. Monday Evening Quarterback, as I always bring to you. Then right after, you can catch me on a Prime with TJ Hopkins, David Hoffman, Israel Rivera, Matt James. Same goes on Tuesdays with the Prime as well. Every Wednesday, you can catch me on the Nerd Zone with Ronnie Kumpf, John Danzo, Christopher Lawrence, and Ryan Shaw. Those knuckleheads. Every Friday, you can catch me on College Football Showdown on Prime Sports World with Israel Rivera, Matt James, and when he wants to show up, TJ Hopkins. And then you can catch me on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT, 8:20 a.m. in Chicago with Devin Tingle, Michelangelo Mercado, Paul Shavari. Love those guys. Love everybody that I contribute for now and everybody I've contributed for in the past. If you want to be a phone caller on Monday Evening Quarterback, let me know. We will set something up. Man, I would love to have you. And like I always say, the doors of MEQ are always open. Of course, ending the show with my shout outs. First and foremost, happy birthday to my mom. My mom is celebrating her birthday today. God bless you. I love you so much. Thank you for all you've done, all you do, and all that I know you're going to continue to do in my lifetime. It does not go unnoticed, and you are very much appreciated. I'm not doing this without you. Plain and simple. My sister Taylor, she's out here doing a doggone thing. Always proud of her. My son, better known as my dog. I don't have kids. Siebes, he's below my feet right now. Always is every time I record Monday Evening Quarterback. My other siblings, Sean, Janice, Tanisha, and some of my other close friends, Corey, Deshaun, Rob Carter, Robert Butler, Alex Bennett, Kim L. Fryer, Candace Carter, Jason Tyree, just so many of you. Look, I can't get all of you in this, but just know if I missed you, I love you, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. And also, man, huge shout out to my dad. He's both parents have been nothing but supportive of me and all I wanted to do. And some more good news, man. Tomorrow makes 12 years that I started the Daily Blitz, and it's been the joy of my lifetime to continue to do this, and I'm only getting started. This is only the beginning. 12 years down, almost, and so many more to go. I will see you guys next week, God willing. Continue to send me your football questions. I'm off to go do the Prime right now. I will see you guys next week. Football is back. Enjoy the game tonight. I like Clemson over Georgia Tech, 35-17. See you guys next week.